Robert Pape challenges Donald Trump's "we're winning" claim on Piers Morgan Uncensored. He explains that the situation is not a victory, but a growing and dangerous problem. The moment highlights escalation, economic risks, and a conflict getting out of control. Comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.
Well, joining me now is Robert Pape, international affairs scholar and author of Escalation Trap on Substack. Welcome back to Uncensored, Robert. Last time you were on, I asked you who was winning this war. You said the US could be facing strategic defeat because of the new significance of the Strait of Hormuz. What is your view as you sit here today?
It's gotten worse. So what you are seeing, and thank you, by the way, for bringing me back. What you are seeing is we are not on a path of peace. We're also not on a path of victory. We're on a path of escalation. And what you are going to see unfold now, not likely over just the next few days, but now probably over the coming weeks and months, is a much longer war. So remember, this was supposed to be just a few-day air campaign, backup air plan for if it had to go longer, 4 weeks. Well, we're way blown past 4 weeks. And what are we doing? We're escalating. We're actually moving more forces into the region this morning. And Iran is now counter-threatening just this morning. So what you are seeing with this blockade is an escalation path, and it is now crossing 3 thresholds. Number one, it's widening the war within the region. So of course it's targeting Iran, but Iran is saying, if this goes forward, we're going to knock out or try to knock out the Red Sea choke point. Well, they've got some credibility there with the Houthis. Number two, the blockade, the US blockade, is now going to be crossing thresholds with China. And we need to understand that when you threaten a ship that's flagged by China or going to China, this is effectively an act of war on China. China's got 600 nuclear weapons here. So this is not a small thing that is occurring here. And then number three, as I was indicating before, this is now moving to a much longer war scenario than is even currently being discussed. And what that means is lock-in of those economic effects of the blockade of the 20% oil, 30% fertilizer, et cetera, possibly now the Red Sea for the world economy. So you're locking in that, not just for a day, but for probably weeks and months for sure. Something, I don't know why the markets don't want to price this in, but you know, markets have been wrong before, but this is what's actually the reality of what's occurring.
And how significant is the fact that it appears that Lebanon was initially supposed to have been included in the ceasefire agreement, but then Israel said absolutely not, and has carried on bombarding Lebanon as they go after Hezbollah. How significant has that been as part of all this?
Yeah, so what Israel has done, in my view, is played the role of spoiler all the way through. So every time you see this going back to last May, for example, before we bombed Fordo, before the 12-day war, every time we get close to something that looks like a workable negotiation, I mean, not even like a deal, but just workable, you see Israel acting in ways that are militarily a spoiler, threatening the deal. In May, Israel started the 12-day war by literally bombing to death the negotiators we were supposed to meet with, and they knew the time and place of where they would be because of the negotiations. So we gave them essentially the targeting information, and now that's just one of many instances that have happened since. So Israel is clearly spoiling the negotiation track, and it's now becoming even, I think, beyond Israel spoiling. I mean, if you're in Iran's shoes, the idea you're really going to rely on the negotiation track, this is just, I think, we're long past that moment.
And in relation to China, they declared on Monday that the US blockade of Iranian oil leaving the Strait of Hormuz was dangerous and irresponsible. Well, Trump has posted on Truth Social, China is very happy that I'm permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. I'm doing it for them also and the world. This situation will never happen again. They've agreed not to send weapons to Iran. President Xi will give me a big fat hug when I get there in a few weeks. We're working together smartly and very well. Doesn't that beat fighting? But remember, we are very good at fighting if we have to, far better than everybody else, President Trump. He's due to go and see President Xi. That's been delayed, obviously, by this war. There are people out there that think that this is a much bigger picture play by Trump and the Americans, which is not about their own oil, because obviously America's pretty well self-sufficient when it comes to energy, but about controlling the global supply, because obviously China relies so much on oil from places like Iran that actually that's always been the big picture here, as we saw with Venezuela, as why Trump wants Greenland, why he wants to have some control of the Strait of Hormuz, whatever it may be. That there's a sort of bigger thing going on here, which is about the control of global energy. Do you buy into that?
Well, last June, when we were bombing Fordo, I was spending 2 weeks in China visiting its advanced industries, the Xiaomi, that's electric vehicle, BYD, Alibaba, and having dinners with all of these executives and also some of the power players here in China. And what they were quite clear was they may lose a few percentage points of GDP if the United States gets sucked into a quagmire in the Middle East, but they gain enormous power here relative to the United States. So they were absolutely not wanting to get in their arrival's way of sticking their nose into this deeper and deeper. And the idea that we've got this leverage over them, well, 80% of their needs don't come from oil, energy needs don't come from oil at all. And in fact, they're moving even more aggressively into solar power, not because they're liberals, but because this is their growth plan for the future. So I saw all that up close and personal for 2 solid weeks, 18 hours a day at the shop floor, all the plans. And so this is just not real. I mean, we're strengthening, we're hastening the day when China will flip and become number one. We're not reducing that. We're not making that slower, Piers. What's happening is all of these so-called talking points here. For example, you say, well, President Trump just posted, she will be thrilled with this. Fine. Then all the White House has to do is get that post endorsed by the Chinese Foreign Ministry today. Yeah. We don't need to wait weeks and weeks for a meeting. All we know that this is an I'm in Chicago, you're in London. We can do this in the next 30 minutes at the longest. That's all that would take there. Otherwise, this is just more hot breath coming out of President Trump. And he's had a lot of that just simply doesn't matter.
Robert Pape, great to have.
Here's the reality while Robert Pape is laying out facts grounded in strategy and global economics. Donald Trump is still pushing a victory narrative that simply doesn't match what's actually happening on the ground. You don't deploy more troops into the Middle East if you've already won. That move alone tells you this conflict is far from over, and economically, the cracks are already showing. Even claims of control over the strait don't hold up when reports suggest Chinese tankers are still moving through, raising serious questions about how much leverage the U.S. truly has. So now the bigger question becomes, is this just miscalculation, or is there a deeper political motive behind it all? Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.